How depressed are the people of Skyrim? To answer these kinds of questions, I usually start by straight up Googling it and then branching off of what that says. For example, the people of Skyrim are generally portrayed as deeply depressed, wary, and pessimistic, largely due to the bleak, war-torn, and dangerous environment they inhabit. The world is characterized by a decaying atmosphere, with citizens struggling under a civil war, the return of dragons, bandit raids, and strict oppressive policing by the Thalmor. And on top of that, there's also Forsworn raids, racial segregation, and Daedric princes that can pretty much fuck with you whenever they want. So when you throw all that stuff into one pot, you can't be surprised if you get some really depressed people. So then the question becomes, if Skyrim is so depressing, then why do we, the player, continuously subject ourselves to hundreds, if not thousands of hours in this depressing world? Well, let's talk about that. First of all, a quick disclosure, I am not a psychologist or a psychiatrist, I don't really know the difference, but I do know that I am not qualified to hand out advice regarding depression. A professional will always be best. I'm just here trying to connect with an audience via Skyrim. Besides, my thoughts on depression is that it's sort of like hot sauce. Each person deals with it on different levels. I just happen to be a bitch when it comes to hot sauce. So if we're gonna ask why people like Skyrim when it's so depressing, then we gotta ask, why do people like sad things? One of the reasons for this is that sad things connect people to real emotions. When you consume a story, even fictional ones, you experience emotional responses that are very real. And when you develop those connections, it makes things in that world seem more realistic and truthful. And that sense of realism is one of the things that sucks you into a world filled with flying dragons and talking dogs.
Yeah, Skyrim is now host to giant flying lizards and two-legged catmen. And you're surprised by me?
And this is a good trick because it helps you experience sadness without the byproduct of anxiety. Take funerals, for example. Sorry if this is triggering for anyone, but funerals suck. Because not only are you experiencing sadness from the loss of a loved one, but you are also experiencing anxiety because you know you'll have to continue to deal with the impact of that loss moving forward. Unlike in a movie or video game when the emotions you experience from that story might only linger for a little bit afterwards, depending on the show, movie, video game, whatever. Obviously there could be a ton of personal factors that could play into this. I'm just trying to say that there was an obvious and significant difference between my grandmother's funeral and Kodlak's funeral. Because all I had to do in that situation was transform into a werewolf and run away from my emotions. You can't do that in real life. But when you experience a sad story, and the characters go through events similar to what you've experienced, and they're feeling emotions similar to emotions that you felt, then it's very validating in a way that lets you know that you aren't alone when you felt the feelings that you felt when you felt those feelings. It's generating empathy, and empathy is one of the most important products of storytelling. So that can explain why people like sad things in general, but let's not sit here and pretend like Skyrim's the epitome of a sad game. It's a depressing game, and there's a very subtle difference. So then we have to answer what makes Skyrim so special. I think my boy here nailed it. Freedom, lore, atmosphere. Freedom, because I can't think of very many other games besides the obvious that has a similar amount of stuff that you could do in them like Skyrim has, and that lets you do those things when you want to. Freedom, because of all the different builds and ways that you could play the game, like Stealth Archer, or Stealth Archer. Lore, because it adds another level of depth to the world building, and the deeper the world building is, the easier it is for someone to get sucked into it. And that feeds into your sense of curiosity about a world that you've connected to initially because of the emotional responses that you've had to its stories. Atmosphere, because if a world has all these stories and all this deep lore beneath its surface, yet that surface doesn't reflect that effort at all, then they've done a disservice to each other. It's like one of those really fancy cakes. It can't just look great, it has to taste great too. And if people are going to say the ambiance is depressing, I'm just going to disagree with you. Sometimes all you want to do when you play this game is to trek through the plains of Whiterun and hunt deer, or to walk through the rainy forests of Falkreath and pick up alchemy ingredients. And doing those things is perfectly lovely. If your argument is weather-based, I'm gonna disagree with you again, but that's more on a personal level because I'm one of those weirdos that prefers cold and rainy weather. Hot summers can suck a fat one. But it does make me wonder if Skyrim players are like-minded people in the sense that they prefer colder weather. I know that I am more likely to boot up Skyrim when the winter months come around, and maybe you are too. Let me know in the comments if you're a warm weather person or a cold weather person. Alright, fished for comments, check. Now that we've figured out why we keep coming back to Skyrim, now the question is, why do these people stay in Skyrim? You know that game you play when you ask if you had to pick one town in Skyrim to live in? Which town would it be? There's no good answer. Go on, try it. Leave a comment saying which town you'd live in, and I'll tell you how you won't be having a good time there. But as I was saying, despite the bleak and harsh nature of Skyrim, everyone seems content with the circumstances. In fact, I can only think of 2 characters in the whole game that appear to be happy. Everyone's favorite is probably Shavi from the Windhelm Docks.
Oh yes, after all, what's the point in being miserable all the time?
But I'm more partial to Gwilyn from Ivarstead.
My father taught me an important lesson many years ago.
All right, Wilhelm.
He said,
I suppose it's the
Gwilyn,
least I can
you have the whole world before you. Go out and experience it. Be whatever you want to be. So I took his advice, and here I am. This life might not look like much to you, but I'm content. And isn't that all that matters?
But you gotta look out for people like this. Not in the sense that they're a threat or anything, but because sometimes when a person has such a joyous exterior, they're either A, hiding how they really feel on the inside, which is bloody miserable because they're just trying to give others what they cannot give themselves. 2, trying to trick their own brain into thinking they're okay. Or C, or whatever we're on, they actually are that happy, in which case, good for them. So when I was trying to think of reasons why the people of Skyrim would stay in Skyrim, I thought of 2 reasons. The first is stubborn Nordic pride. Why do they endure? Because they can and they're proud of it. Not many people would willingly freeze their nuts off 24/7, yet the Nords will. And they'll laugh at you if you don't. And they found ways to deal with the bleakness, primarily consuming copious amounts of alcohol and taking out their frustrations on people that look different than them. Might not be the healthiest way to do it, but therapy hasn't exactly been invented yet. And if it has, then they probably say something like, "We Nords prefer drinking and fighting over talking about our feelings like some milk drinker." And I'm like, well, that's called toxic masculinity. The second reason for staying is, where else are they gonna go? Every place in Tamriel has its problems. Remember not too long ago, Cyrodiil was being invaded by Mehrunes Dagon's demon army? You know, Mehrunes Dagon, the guy who looks like if a Machamp had a giant love child with Beelzebub from the Tenacious D movie. Skyrim isn't special in the we're fucked category. So we might as well just fight where you have home field advantage. Home is where the heart is, and home just happens to be colder than the Frost Giant's tit. In conclusion, how depressed are the people of Skyrim? Pretty depressed. But that's not the point. The point is that they keep going, no matter what problems they might face throughout the day, so you can too. I know your problems don't involve getting attacked by giant spiders, or getting kidnapped by vampires, or being called racial slurs. Actually, it might. But we all got problems, and at the end of the day, we're the first person that can do anything about them. That doesn't mean suck it up and deal with it. That means, well, whatever you need it to mean. Whether it be asking for professional help, going for a walk around the lake, listening to the new Gorillaz album, whatever you gotta do to keep fighting the good fight. You can't be an NPC waiting for a Dragonborn to come along and deal with your problems for you. You gotta be your own Dragonborn. Sky above, voice within. Thank you and take care.
Have yourself a great day.